Have you ever looked back at a relationship and felt like you lost yourself? Like, piece by piece, you became someone you barely recognize? What if I told you that wasn't by accident, but by design? Some women have mastered the art of subtle control, pushing boundaries and taking power without you even noticing. This isn't love, it's manipulation, and it's happening right now to men everywhere. Stick with me, because by the end of this you'll know exactly how to spot it, how to stop it, and how to take back your life. Are you ready to see what's really been going on? Type "I'm ready" in the comments below. Most men think relationships are about compromise, about giving a little to get a little. But what if that compromise is a lie? What if what you're giving isn't just time or effort, but your confidence, your freedom, your very sense of self? There are women out there who don't want an equal partner. They want a project, a man they can mold, control, and eventually dominate. They don't walk in and demand power outright. No, they're smarter than that. They start small, testing you, poking at your insecurities, making you second-guess yourself until you don't even realize how much you've given up. But here's the thing. You're not like most men. You're here because you feel something is off, even if you can't quite put it into words yet. And trust me, you're not crazy. You're not imagining it. There are patterns, there are signs, and once you learn to see them, you'll never unsee them. This is about reclaiming your strength, your independence, and your sense of worth. If you've ever felt like something was wrong, like you were giving more than you were getting, or like your boundaries were slowly being crossed, stay with me. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to take back control, not just of your relationships, but of your life. Let's get into it. Number 1, the interest test trap. It begins so subtly that most men don't even notice it. A casual question, a playful tease, or an innocent-sounding comment. Who's that you're texting? Why are you always so busy with work? Oh, so you're hanging out with your friends again? At first glance, it seems harmless. You might even think she's just curious or cares about you, but that's where you're wrong. What you're witnessing isn't care. It's the start of a game, a test. And if you fail it, you're handing her the keys to your power. Every question she asks isn't about understanding you, it's about dissecting you. She's probing and calculating, figuring out how much control she can have. She doesn't say, "Let me see your phone," not yet. Instead, she makes a face, a subtle shift in her tone, or a quiet sigh when you mention your plans. Why? Because she's learning. She's watching your every move, taking mental notes on what you'll justify, what you'll defend, and most importantly, what you'll give up to keep her happy. And the sad truth, most men don't see it. You've been conditioned to think that explaining yourself is the right thing to do, that transparency equals trust. But let me ask you this, why does she need to know everything? Why does she need to approve your choices? The moment you feel compelled to explain yourself, you're already losing ground. Every justification you give, every time you try to clear the air, you're not building trust, you're giving her the upper hand. Imagine this, you're out with friends and your phone buzzes. You glance at it and put it away. Later she asks, "Who was texting you?" You think there's no harm in saying, "Just a buddy from work." But now she knows something critical. When she asks, you answer. When she probes, you respond. She's not asking because she's curious. She's testing how much you'll share, how much you're willing to let into parts of your life that belong solely to you. Here's where most men falter. They believe that by being completely open, they're proving their loyalty. But let me tell you something that might sting. Loyalty doesn't mean sacrificing your autonomy. You can be loyal without giving up your sense of self. The more you bend, the more she'll push. It won't stop at your texts or your plans. It will escalate to who you spend time with, where you go, and eventually who you are. Think back to the last time you felt like you had to explain yourself. Did it feel empowering, or did it feel draining? Did you feel like you were strengthening your bond, or did it feel like you were losing a piece of your freedom? That's the trap. She starts small, but every small yes leads to a bigger no to yourself. What most men don't realize is that this isn't just about her asking questions. It's about you questioning yourself. She doesn't need to outright accuse you of anything. All she has to do is plant the seed of doubt, and you'll do the rest. You'll start wondering if you're spending too much time with your friends. You'll second guess if you're being too secretive about your phone. You'll start adjusting your behavior, not because you want to, but because you feel you have to. This is where the trap tightens. Once she sees that her subtle tests are working, she'll up the ante. She might say something like, "You're always busy these days. Are you sure I'm a priority?" Do you see what she did there? She turned her insecurity into your responsibility. And if you're not careful, you'll fall for it. You'll start rearranging your life to prove something that doesn't need proving. And every time you do, you're teaching her that her tests work, that her control is growing. But let me tell you something that will change the way you see this forever. You are not responsible for her insecurities. Read that again. Your life, your decisions, your autonomy, they are not negotiable. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect, not constant reassurance. The moment you feel like you're walking on eggshells, trying to avoid upsetting her, you're no longer in control of your life. She is. Here's how you break the cycle. Stop explaining yourself. It's that simple. When she asks, "Who was that?" don't give her the power of an answer. Instead, meet her with calm indifference. Say, "A friend," and leave it at that. If she pushes, don't push back. Say, "Why does it matter?" and let her reveal her intentions. You're not being dismissive, you're setting a boundary. And boundaries, my friend, are the difference between a man who's in control and a man who's controlled. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't just protect your peace, it exposes her motives. A woman who genuinely respects you won't need constant explanations. She won't test you because she trusts you. But a woman who seeks control will struggle with your boundaries. She'll try harder to break them, to pull you into her web of doubt and manipulation. And when she does, you'll see her for what she truly is. Let's make something clear. Not all women do this, but the ones who do count on your ignorance. They rely on you not noticing the patterns, not understanding the game. But you're not most men. You're watching this because you're ready to wake up and take back the power that's rightfully yours. This isn't about being combative or dismissive. It's about being unapologetically you. Number 2, manipulative praise followed by criticism. At first, she will make you feel like you're on top of the world. Her words will pour over you like honey, sweet and soothing. She'll tell you things that make you feel invincible, like no one else has ever seen your worth the way she does. You're amazing. You're so different from other men. I've never felt this way before. It feels real. It feels genuine. And that's the trap. The praise isn't the point. It's the bait. You see, it's not about her lifting you up. It's about getting you hooked on her validation, her approval, her perception of you. Because as soon as you start to rely on those compliments, as soon as they become the foundation of your confidence, she will start pulling them away. Not all at once. No, that would be too obvious. It will start as a subtle shift, barely noticeable at first. First, you're amazing. But don't you think you could be more ambitious? You're great, but why don't you try dressing up more often? These comments seem harmless on the surface, but underneath, they're doing exactly what they're designed to do. Chip away at your self-worth one small piece at a time. This isn't random, it's calculated. By praising you first, She sets the stage. You feel good, you feel seen, and most importantly, you feel like she's on your side. But when the criticism comes, it hits harder. Why? Because you weren't expecting it. You thought she was your biggest supporter, the one person who truly believed in you. And now she's pointing out flaws you didn't even know existed. It's disorienting, and in that moment of confusion, you start to doubt yourself. This is where most men fall into the trap. Instead of questioning her intentions, they start questioning themselves. Maybe she's right, you think. Maybe I could do better. You start working harder, not for yourself, but for her approval. You change the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you live, all in an effort to regain the praise she used to give so freely. But no matter how much you change, it's never enough. Why? Because it was never about improvement. It was always about control. Let's be clear. Constructive criticism is not the same as manipulative criticism. A partner who truly cares about you will offer feedback in a way that builds you up, not tears you down. But manipulative criticism is different. It's designed to keep you in a state of perpetual insecurity. When you're insecure, you're easier to control. You start looking to her for validation, for reassurance, for guidance on how to be better. And that's exactly where she wants you, dependent on her opinion, her approval, her judgment. Think about it. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like you were constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid her disapproval? Have you noticed how the compliments become rarer and the criticisms more frequent? That's not a coincidence. It's a pattern, and it's deliberate. She's creating a dynamic where your sense of self-worth is tied directly to her perception of you. The more you buy into it, the more power she has. But it doesn't stop there. Once she has you doubting yourself, she'll start comparing you to others, not directly. She's too smart for that. Instead, she'll make subtle comments designed to make you feel inadequate. My friend's boyfriend just got a promotion. Isn't that amazing? Or, I saw this guy at the gym today. He's in such great shape. She's not just making conversation. She's planting seeds of doubt, making you question whether you're good enough for her. And the more you question yourself, the more control she gains. Now here's the part that most men miss. The problem isn't with you. The problem is with her need to control you. A woman who genuinely respects you won't feel the need to tear you down to build herself up. She won't use your insecurities as a weapon to manipulate you. She won't make you feel like you're constantly falling short. But a woman who seeks control thrives on your doubt. She wants you to feel like you need her to be complete. And the moment you believe that, you've given her exactly what she wants. So how do you break free from this cycle? First, recognize it for what it is: manipulation. When she praises you, don't let it go to your head. Appreciate it, but don't rely on it. Your confidence should never depend on someone else's opinion of you. And when the criticism comes, don't internalize it. Ask yourself, is this meant to help me, or is it meant to control me? If it's the latter, don't engage. Set a boundary. Say, I appreciate your input, but I'm confident in who I am. Stand firm in your sense of self-worth, because the moment you stop seeking her approval, you take away her power. This isn't about being dismissive or unkind. It's about protecting yourself, protecting your peace, your confidence, your identity. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect, not manipulation. If she can't accept you for who you are, she doesn't deserve to be in your life. And if she tries to make you feel like you're not enough, remember this: you are more than enough. Her inability to see that says more about her than it does about you. Every man deserves to feel respected, valued, and appreciated in a relationship. But that starts with respecting, valuing, and appreciating yourself. Don't let her praise cloud your judgment, and don't let her criticism define you. You are not her project, her pet, or her plaything. You are a man, and you are enough, just as you are. Number 3, weaponizing emotional arguments. There's a moment every man dreads, and yet so many face it again and again. You start with what you think is a calm, logical conversation, maybe about a minor misunderstanding or something simple like plans for the weekend. But before you know it, you're caught in a whirlwind of accusations, guilt trips, and emotional chaos. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about the original issue at all. It's about you, your faults, your failures, everything you've ever done wrong in her eyes. How did it get here? How did a minor issue explode into a full-scale attack on your character? This isn't random. It's not a coincidence. It's a tactic. Emotional arguments are a weapon, and they're being used to disarm you, to keep you on the defensive, to make you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. A woman who weaponizes emotions doesn't want resolution. She wants control. And the way she gets that control is by pulling you into her storm, spinning you around until you can't tell which way is up, and making you believe that you're the one who caused the chaos. Here's how it works. It starts small, with a disagreement about something insignificant. You bring up a concern or ask a question, thinking you're having a mature, adult conversation. But instead of addressing the issue, she shifts the focus. "Why are you always so critical of me?" she might say. Or, "You never listen to what I'm saying." Now the conversation isn't about the original topic. It's about your shortcomings. She's flipped the script, and you're no longer discussing the issue at hand. You're defending yourself. And that's the first step in her strategy, making you feel like the bad guy. The more she can put you on the defensive, the less time you have to think clearly. You start apologizing, trying to de-escalate, trying to get back to the point. But every apology is fuel for her fire. She doesn't want the argument to end. She wants it to spiral. Why? Because the longer the chaos lasts, the more exhausted you become. And an exhausted man is easier to manipulate. But it doesn't stop there. Once you're on the defensive, she'll escalate. Tears, raised voices, dramatic gestures. She'll use whatever it takes to keep you emotionally invested in the argument. And if you try to stay calm, she'll accuse you of not caring. "Why aren't you reacting?" she might say. "Do you even love me?" Now you're caught in a double bind. React, and she'll use your emotions against you. Stay calm, and she'll accuse you of being heartless. Either way, she wins, and you lose. Think about the last time you found yourself in this kind of argument. How did it feel? Draining? Confusing? Like no matter what you said or did, it wasn't enough. That's by design. She's not looking for a solution, she's looking for submission. By keeping you emotionally overwhelmed, she makes it nearly impossible for you to think critically, to stand your ground, to say, "Enough." This is where most men make their biggest mistake. They think the solution is to explain themselves better, to find the right words that will make her understand their point of view. But that's not the answer. In fact, it's the opposite. The more you try to explain, the deeper you sink into her trap. Because she's not interested in understanding you, she's interested in controlling you. And every word you say gives her more ammunition to twist, to manipulate, to use against you. So, how do you break free from this cycle? It starts with recognizing the game. When an argument takes an emotional turn, ask yourself, is this about resolving the issue, or is this about control? If it's the latter, disengage. Stop playing the game. This doesn't mean ignoring her or shutting her out. It means refusing to let her emotions dictate your actions. The next time she raises her voice or tries to guilt trip you, take a step back. Literally create physical and emotional distance. Say, "I can see this is a heated topic. Let's talk about it when we're both calm." And then walk away, not angrily, not dramatically, just calmly and firmly. This sends a clear message. You won't be pulled into her storm. You won't let her emotions control you. You're in charge of your own actions, your own reactions, your own peace of mind. But what if she accuses you of running away, of avoiding the conversation? Stay firm. Say, "I'm not avoiding anything. I'm choosing to discuss this when we can both approach it rationally." This isn't about ignoring her feelings. It's about protecting your boundaries. A woman who respects you will appreciate your calm approach. A woman who seeks control will escalate further, and that escalation will tell you everything you need to know about her intentions. Let's talk about guilt for a moment. Women who weaponize emotional arguments rely heavily on guilt. They want you to feel like you've let them down, like you're the source of their unhappiness. "If you really loved me, you'd understand," they might say. Or, "I can't believe you'd do this to me." These statements are designed to make you question yourself, to make you feel like you're failing as a partner. But here's the truth. Her happiness is not your responsibility. Read that again. Her happiness is not your responsibility. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect and accountability. Both partners take responsibility for their own emotions, their own actions, their own well-being. If she's constantly blaming you for her feelings, for her choices, for her state of mind, that's not love, it's manipulation. And the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you can break free. Here's a powerful thought to hold on to. You are not obligated to participate in every argument you're invited to. Just because she's upset doesn't mean you have to match her energy. Just because she's raising her voice doesn't mean you have to raise yours. You have the right to stay calm, to stay grounded, to protect your peace. And the more you practice this, the stronger you become. It might hurt to realize that someone you care about is using emotional arguments as a weapon. It might feel like a betrayal, like the person you thought you knew is revealing a darker side. But remember, this isn't about you. It's about her need for control. And once you see it for what it is, you can choose a different path. A path where you reclaim your power, where you set boundaries, and where you refuse to let anyone dictate your worth. Number 4. The pull-push dynamic. There's a pattern that leaves most men feeling drained, confused, and questioning everything about themselves. One day she's all over you, affectionate, sweet, making you feel like the king of the world. The next day, it's like you don't exist. She pulls away, becomes distant, and you're left wondering what you did wrong. Was it something you said? Something you didn't do? You rack your brain trying to figure it out, but no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to crack the code. This is the pull-push dynamic, and it's not just a fluke, it's deliberate. When a woman uses the pull-push dynamic, it's a calculated move to keep you chasing her validation. By giving you attention and then abruptly taking it away, she creates a sense of uncertainty. That uncertainty is her power. When you're unsure of where you stand, you're more likely to seek her approval, to try harder, to do whatever it takes to get back into her good graces. And that's exactly what she wants, to have you chasing her, working for her affection, all while she controls the game. Think about the last time you experienced this. She might have gone out of her way to make you feel special. Maybe she planned a surprise date or sent you a sweet message out of nowhere. It felt amazing, didn't it? But then, almost without warning, she pulled back. She stopped replying to your texts, cancelled plans, or seemed uninterested when you talked. You tried to brush it off, telling yourself she was just busy or had a lot on her mind. But deep down, it ate at you. You started overanalyzing every interaction, wondering where things went wrong. Here's the truth: nothing went wrong. She pulled away not because of something you did, but because of what she wanted: control. By creating emotional highs and lows, she keeps you emotionally invested. When she's warm and affectionate, your brain releases a rush of dopamine, the chemical that makes you feel good. But when she pulls away, that dopamine drops and your brain craves more. This cycle is addictive, just like any drug. And just like any addiction, it's hard to break free. What makes the pull-push dynamic so effective is that it's unpredictable. If she were always distant, you'd eventually give up and move on. But because she mixes affection with withdrawal, she keeps you guessing. You start to believe that if you just try a little harder, if you can figure out the right thing to do, you'll win back her full attention. And that's the trap. The more you chase, the more power you give her. Now, let's take this a step further. The pull-push dynamic isn't just about her mood swings, it's about testing your boundaries. When she pulls away, she's watching how you respond. Do you get anxious? Do you start questioning yourself? Do you reach out more, trying to fix things? If the answer is yes, she knows she has you. She knows she can control your emotions, make you doubt yourself, and keep you hooked. The more she sees this pattern work, the more she'll use it. So, how do you break free? It starts with recognizing the pattern. The next time she pulls away, resist the urge to chase. Don't flood her phone with messages asking if she's okay or trying to figure out what went wrong. Don't rearrange your life to fit into hers. Instead, focus on yourself. Maintain your routines, your priorities, your peace of mind. When she sees that her withdrawal doesn't affect you, she'll lose the power she thought she had. This isn't about playing games or trying to win. It's about reclaiming your emotional independence. You are not a puppet for someone else to control. Your worth doesn't depend on her attention, her approval, or her affection. The moment you stop seeking her validation, you take away the fuel that drives the pull-push dynamic. And trust me, nothing confuses someone who thrives on control more than a man who refuses to be controlled. But let's take a moment to address the emotions involved. When she pulls away, it hurts. It feels like rejection, like you're not good enough. And that pain is real. But here's what you need to remember. Her behavior says more about her than it does about you. A woman who uses the pull-push dynamic isn't acting out of love or respect. She's acting out of a need for power, for control, for validation. And that's not your burden to carry. What's even more insidious about this dynamic is that it often escalates. The more you invest, the more she pulls away. The more desperate you become to get back to the good times, you start to romanticize those moments when she was affectionate, convincing yourself that if you just try harder, you can bring them back. But those moments were never about you. They were about her setting the stage, creating the contrast that makes her withdrawal so painful. Imagine a pendulum swinging back and forth. When it's on one side, you feel the warmth of her affection. When it swings to the other, you feel the coldness of her distance. But what happens when you stop pushing the pendulum? It loses momentum, it slows down, and eventually it stops swinging altogether. That's what happens when you refuse to play the game. By not reacting to her pull-push tactics, you take away the energy that keeps the cycle going. Here's the most important lesson. Your value is not determined by someone else's attention. A woman who truly values you won't need to create uncertainty to keep you around. She won't use emotional games to test your loyalty or manipulate your feelings. She'll show up consistently, treating you with the respect and care you deserve. And if she can't do that, she's not worth your time. If you've ever felt trapped in the pull-push dynamic, it's time to take a stand. Stop chasing. Stop questioning your worth. Stop letting someone else dictate your emotions. Instead, focus on yourself. Build a life that fulfills you, with or without her. When you do that, you'll attract people who respect you for who you are, not for how much they can control you. Number 5. Overstepping boundaries. Subtly, it doesn't start with her walking all over you. It never does. No, it begins with something small, something you wouldn't even think twice about. She asks to borrow money, and though it's not a lot, she never pays it back. Or maybe she insists on choosing the restaurant for dinner, even though you had other plans. At first, you let it slide. After all, what's the harm? Relationships are about compromise, right? But over time, these small asks turn into demands. These little moments of control turn into a pattern, and before you know it, you're not just compromising, you're surrendering. A woman who wants control doesn't charge into your life and declare it outright. That would be too obvious. Instead, she tests you. She pushes your boundaries, one small step at a time, to see how much you'll tolerate. It's a slow, deliberate process, and it works because you don't notice it happening until it's too late. She doesn't ask for everything at once. She takes a little here, a little there, until suddenly you're left wondering where your freedom went. Think back. Have you ever found yourself agreeing to something you didn't want to do just to avoid an argument? Have you ever changed your plans, your schedule, or even your priorities because she insisted? These aren't just one-off incidents. They're part of a larger pattern, a strategy to erode your sense of self and replace it with her vision of who you should be. And every time you give in, every time you ignore that nagging feeling in your gut, you're reinforcing her belief that she can dictate the terms of your life. But why does she do it? It's not always about malice. Sometimes it's about her own insecurities. By controlling you, she feels secure, powerful, and important. But here's the hard truth. Her insecurities are not your responsibility. You are not her emotional crutch, her safety net, or her project. You are a man with your own life, your own goals, your own values, and the moment you let someone trample over those values, you lose yourself. Let's break this down. It might start with her canceling your plans. "Why don't we skip your guys' night and have a cozy evening at home?" she says. It sounds sweet, doesn't it? But what happens when it becomes a habit? Suddenly you're no longer seeing your friends, no longer doing the things that make you happy. Or maybe she starts commenting on your hobbies. "Do you really need to spend so much time at the gym?" she asks. And before you know it, you're cutting back on workouts because you don't want to upset her. These aren't compromises, they're sacrifices. And sacrifices, when made repeatedly and one-sidedly, lead to resentment. Now here's where it gets even trickier. When you try to set a boundary, she might push back. "Why are you being so selfish?" she'll say. Or, "Don't you care about us?" She'll frame your boundaries as a personal attack, as if your desire for independence is somehow a betrayal of her. And this is where most men cave. They feel guilty. They don't want to hurt her feelings, so they give in. But let me tell you something that will change your perspective forever. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's necessary. It's healthy. And it's the only way to maintain your sense of self in a relationship. Think about the men you know who seem miserable in their relationships, the ones who look like they've given up, like they're just going through the motions. Chances are those men didn't start out that way. They started as confident, self-assured individuals. But over time, they let someone else dictate the terms of their life. They let their boundaries erode until there was nothing left. Don't let that be you. So how do you stop this from happening? First, you have to recognize when a boundary is being crossed. This requires self-awareness. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I feel obligated? If the answer is obligation, it's time to reevaluate. Next, you need to communicate your boundaries clearly and confidently. Don't apologize for them, don't explain them, and don't waver. A boundary isn't a suggestion, it's a declaration. I value my time with my friends, and I'm going to keep that commitment, period. But here's the part that most men struggle with, enforcing those boundaries. Because when you set a boundary, she might test it. She might argue, guilt trip, or even retaliate. This is where your resolve is tested. Do not back down. The moment you let someone cross a boundary, you're teaching them that your words mean nothing. And once your words lose their power, so do you. Let's take this further. Boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're about saying yes to yourself. Yes to your goals. Yes to your values. Yes to the man you want to be. Every time you enforce a boundary, you're affirming your worth. You're reminding yourself that you matter, that your needs and desires are just as important as hers. And that's not selfish. That's self-respect. Now, some women will respect your boundaries. They'll see them as a sign of your strength, your confidence, your independence. These are the women worth keeping in your life. But others will see your boundaries as a threat. They'll accuse you of being cold, distant, or unloving. They'll try to manipulate you into bending, breaking, and compromising. And when that happens, you have a choice to make: stand firm, or let them chip away at who you are. Let's be unapologetic about this. A woman who can't respect your boundaries doesn't respect you. And a relationship without respect is no relationship at all. You deserve better. You deserve a partner who uplifts you, who values you, who sees you for who you are and doesn't try to change you. And if she can't be that partner, then she doesn't belong in your life. If you've ever felt like your boundaries were being tested, crossed, or ignored, now is the time to take a stand. Reclaim your space, your time, your life. Stop apologizing for wanting to live on your terms. You are not here to be controlled, manipulated, or molded into someone else's idea of who you should be. You are here to live unapologetically and fully. You've made it this far because deep down you know the truth. You know that in today's world, too many men are losing themselves in relationships, giving up their power, their voice, and their purpose. But not you. You're different. You've seen the patterns, how some women manipulate, test, and control without you even realizing it. You've felt the pull-push, the emotional traps, the subtle boundary crossings, and now you have a choice. You can either keep living on autopilot, letting these games play out, or you can step up, reclaim your power, and take control of your life. This isn't just about one relationship. It's about every part of your life, your confidence, your purpose, your peace. A strong man doesn't bend to manipulation. He doesn't play someone else's game. He makes his own rules and lives by them unapologetically. You have the tools now. You know the truth. And from this moment forward, you'll never see relationships the same way again. If this hit home, if you see the signs now, comment below, "I see the truth." Let this be the moment where everything changes for you, where you take back what's always been yours. If you're ready to step into your power and never be controlled again, subscribe to this channel right now. This isn't just about watching a video. It's about joining a movement of men who refuse to settle, who refuse to lose themselves, who refuse to be anything less than the best version of themselves.